Alrighty. Well, my name's Dalton.
My name's Paul.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're the Boo Boys. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
Yeah, they're not really Western.
Oh.
It's just the word ranch.
Has this not been covered on the show before?
We've kind of gone over it, but not in full detail. It's just been mentioned when we did a Skinwalker episode, but this is not actually about skinwalkers.
This is specifically about the ranch.
Well, so Skinwalker Ranch doesn't actually go into skinwalkers. It's just called that.
Why do they call it Skinwalker Ranch if there's no skinwalkers?
Because white man dumb.
Nice. It's funny. I actually was pulled into watching an episode about this on the plane to Texas a couple weeks ago because my sister was watching it. So I only know like a little bit about it. Just that there's a bunch of bizarre stuff going on there and the government can't really explain it, or like, I don't know. I didn't get through the whole series. I only saw an episode. So
can't explain it or just pretend they can't explain it.
I mean, that does sound more convenient.
So, Skinwalker Ranch is also called the Sherman Ranch. It's located in Ballard, Utah, and it's known to have odd and paranormal related activities. So the property pretty much is just like this, it's kind of like a farm ranch. They used to have like cows and horses and stuff. It's just in the middle of nowhere, and it was built up in 1934 by a married couple named Kenneth and Edith Myers. The couple was a starter family. They were just kind of getting everything settled. They were about to have like their first child, and they were pretty quiet. And as their family grew and they had more children, they kind of started to notice weird things happening around the 500-acre property. And at this point in time, it's like, maybe the 40s. There's no like internet. There's no real community, especially out in the middle of nowhere. They don't really have like a car, I'm sure. So it's like, if stuff's happening, they can't go to somebody and be like, hey, have you guys seen any weird stuff? Because we've seen a lot of it. So in the 1970s, Utah began seeing more and more strange things in the sky. And pretty much Kenneth and Edith were like, that's pretty crazy. We also see weird stuff in the sky. And in 1994, Kenneth and Edith decided to finally sell their property to Terry and Gwen Sherman, who, within only 2 years, like 1996, began to experience really strange things. So it took them 2 years of having the property, so it probably was like moving in and getting everything in there and settled and actually like staying like time there for them to realize that there was weird stuff going on. And Terry claimed that on their second day of moving into the ranch, he saw what looked like a wolf or a coyote walking on its hind legs, stalking its livestock. Terry shot at it, thinking it was just a man like in a costume trying to steal his cattle. But the creature supposedly was hit by his bullet but didn't even like look like it was hit. So he claims that like he basically saw it like kind of thud like he got hit, but he just kept doing his thing. Like he just didn't go down, he didn't make a noise.
There's no way he missed that shot.
Didn't do anything. Yeah. He was like, I know I got that true sight. So he claims he hit it, but it didn't faze the creature. And instead, the creature took a baby cow in its mouth and then wandered off into the bushes nearby.
It took a baby cow in its mouth?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
he said it looked like a wolf or a coyote standing on its hind legs.
I don't even think a normal wolf or coyote could fit a whole baby cow in its mouth.
Well, so a baby cow, I'm guessing it probably like grabbed it by the nape of the neck or a leg or something and like...
Yeah, that's not what I had imagined.
He didn't just like unhinge his jaw and snake it into its throat.
I prefer to think of it that way.
I was over here thinking he was like cradling it, like walking away.
Yeah.
Just giving it a little nibble as he goes.
Well, Terry says that he took the baby cow in its mouth and wandered into some nearby bushes. Terry claimed that it smelled like rotting flesh and even began to, like he could even smell it from a few feet away.
Oh.
I'm like, ugh. Yeah, sounds like a bad time. But coyotes smell really bad, so
True.
It's a fair, like, wondering. So I'm guessing, like, at this point, he says this happened, like, on their second day there. And so I think in his mind, he was like, nah, that's just a guy in a costume. So he didn't include that as his, like, weird paranormal thing. He was just like, weird guy in a costume.
Yeah. Or tough dog. And he's like, but you know what? Whatever.
But the first owners of the house, their only report was that there was weird stuff in the sky.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, there just wasn't as much communication, so it's entirely possible they might have seen other stuff, but people were just like, you live out in the middle of nowhere, weird stuff happens. A lot of, like, weird stuff, especially in the times where, like, things just weren't recorded often, just kind of gets brushed off as, like, paranoia, essentially, that you're just like, you live out there.
I don't know. Okay, so
Or
the
like
first
Bible.
people, they saw weird stuff in the sky, and then the second owners who moved in, they later saw bizarre humanoid wolf coyote-like creatures wandering around. I feel like we're leading up to something.
Have you ever been on this show before?
First time.
So, sooner than later, they started to hear growls and roars coming from the nearby woods. Now, what's weird about this ranch, it is located in the middle of the desert, but there's this, like, mesa, like, which is kind of a flat mountain, not too far away, maybe like 2 miles away from the actual house, but it's still, like, owned on that same property. On top of that mesa is, like, a foresty area. So it's, if you're by the house and you're on the ground, it's all dirt and desert and, like, you know, desert-y things. But if you look off into the mesa, there's a wooded area. So it's like pine trees and those types of things. So they have a desert and a forest, which sounds kind of confusing if you're paying attention and you're like, aren't they in the desert? Because, yeah. Anyway, so they have like this little deserty area and then the woodsy area. So they decided to try and check out what the growls and roars are. Terry and Gwen decided to kind of walk out, and they took 2 flashlights. And they said that as they were walking out, they started to notice different light. So their flashlights, probably like a white-yellow kind of color. Mm-hmm. They said in the distance through the woods, they were able to see orange and blue lights moving in a circular motion. So they turned off their flashlights to make sure it wasn't some weird, like, feedback that they were getting.
Like, who is that? What's going on?
Right. And they said that as they did that, they saw the lights begin to hover in the sky and quickly start spinning around faster. Mm-hmm. In the morning, when they went to go outside again, they found that their dogs had been incinerated. Just burnt to an absolute crisp.
You'd think the coyote wolf humanoid things would find some sort of kinship with the canines.
Well, so their dogs were burnt to an absolute crisp, and then their cows were cored out, is what it said.
Oh my god.
They were, like, the outside of the cow still looked regularly like a cow, and the inside was just literally, like, scooped. Out. Yeah, just scooped out. And they were dismembered, so, like, their legs and stuff were all taken apart.
Why didn't they take the skin with them?
That was important.
They said that it looked like it had been done precisely, having them ruling out coyotes and wolves, because it was just too perfect.
Yeah. Human hands, special hands, tools, something.
They didn't hollow out the dogs, they just incinerated them.
They said that they began finding crop circles out, like, in their area, like in the little deserty area.
Yeah.
And they would kind of brush them out to get rid of them, thinking it might have been a prank by somebody, but they continued to come back time and time again. So the couple began putting out articles, kind of in their local paper, to be like, look at this weird thing happening that we have. And people were just kind of like, eh. And soon the internet became a big thing while they had this property. Mm-hmm. And so 90s. They were putting stuff online on, like, a, you know, shitty 90s blog site.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, this blog happened to catch the eye of a billionaire named Robert Bigelow, who pretty much had a knack for weird and paranormal stuff. So he was like, I have a shit ton of money. Let me throw some money at that and see what happens.
Make it rain.
So he offered to buy the land from the Shermans for only $200,000 for 500 acres. That's like a crazy, crazy, crazy steal. Like, for $200,000, you couldn't get a nice house, like in Arizona, let alone.
What year is it at this point?
It's
because if it's still the 40s, that's like $2 billion.
No.
The Shermans bought it in 96 or 94.
No, oh yeah, because the internet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, they had internet in the 40s.
I'm gonna guess. How long did they tolerate?
I think it's like 2002, 2003.
Yeah, okay. That's my guess.
$200,000. That's like nothing.
Yeah, for 500 acres, that's like nothing. Because like an acre is usually like $200 or $300.
Yeah.
He must have been like convinced they were desperate to sell or like get out of there or something.
It's entirely possible that they were just like, we're getting kind of old and we don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, it's freaking us out.
So he went on then to create his own investigation team. Like, he literally hired, like, ex-CIA, ex-FBI stuff. Like, he ordered ex-Navy SEALs. Like, all these people that no longer worked for the government came to be on his team to try and investigate what exactly was going on at the Skinwalker Ranch. And they tried to document as much as they could. But what they found is every time that they would set up a camera to try to catch stuff, like, overnight or even just over during the day, during long periods of time, the camera would roll for a certain amount of time, and then out of nowhere, it would just cut and not work anymore, and, like, the battery would be fried, and they wouldn't be able to use that camera anymore.
Electromagnetic interference.
They ended up calling the National Institute for Discovery of Science, the NIDS, and they had round-the-clock surveillance. Which, again, their surveillance cameras constantly would go down, and they kept having to replace them throughout the entire time.
Yeah.
They said that they began to see similar events to the Shermans, that lights continued to show in the sky, their equipment wouldn't work. There would be times where their equipment would actually be mangled and, like, broken, and just, like, in ways that they couldn't have imagined it to be because of physics. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, they would find they'd find, like, the bars, like, metal bars, like, twisted up in coils, basically.
And they're like, an animal can't do that.
They're like, we can't do that. And they found that all the wires had been ripped out of, like, their camera areas a few times, and they were like, that's pretty weird. So one NIDS consultant was a retired Army intelligence officer. His name was John Alexander, who said he believed that there was a precognitive sentient intelligence watching and predicting the moves by the team. So essentially, he believed that there was, like, an overlord guy up in the sky watching everybody do their thing, and he was like, haha, you guys watch this. And then he would just, like, fuck with everything that they did every single time. So Robert Bigelow, he owned this property for over 10 years. And one day he kind of saw something. He saw so many strange things that he was encouraged to tell a senator, like, that he was like, there's so much weird shit going on. We need to make an advance on our aerospace threat detection policy. And that basically created the Aerospace Threat Identification Program, as he was absolutely convinced that extraterrestrials had visited Earth.
Wow.
So then, if we go forward in time, I think it was 2020 or 2019. Double check.
Accuracy's best. I remember on the docu I was watching, they were talking about the hill glowing and other weird stuff going on.
So Bigelow actually sold the Skinwalker Ranch in 2015 to go on to start working in higher intelligence, or with higher intelligence to get things going. But he sold it to a real estate company who then worked with the History Channel and a couple of guys that were like, let's make a show out of this, which has been ongoing since 2019. Now, they started the premiere of the show called The Secret of the Skinwalker Ranch, and it airs, this is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, even though I wish it was, so History Channel, get on that. So it airs on the History Channel weekly, and it has been since 2020. And it's like a group of these guys that are staying at Skinwalker Ranch and, like, doing essentially the same thing Bigelow was doing, but now with, like, History Channel money. And they're, like, trying to record things happening at the Skinwalker Ranch. And it turns out that, I guess, like, they're 4 seasons deep at this point, and they've been trying to build, like, rockets to launch into the sky. Like, not big ones for people, but just, like, informational ones to go into the sky.
Signal to the aliens that, like,
I don't
haul
know.
out cows and
Apparently, every single time they've launched one, it gets to a certain area and then it just explodes and comes back down.
So maybe there's like a force field.
I don't know. But, and as much as I hate this website to my absolute core, there are a few interesting theories on Reddit. Now, this is the Skinwalker Ranch subreddit, specifically for the show, from people that have been watching it. So it's not just people giving, like, bullshit opinions. It's people that watch a show giving bullshit opinions.
Right.
Sweet. I mean, it's a step above.
But here's one that I thought was pretty interesting.
I smelled Cheeto.
It's on the Skinwalker Ranch subreddit. And it says, my 2 hypotheses as to what may be happening. Time-traveling robots.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought you would get a kick out of, Paul.
Time-traveling robots?
Yeah. In 1,000,000 years, we, humanity, will likely be extinct, similar to the dinosaurs. What will continue almost forever, however, is the new man-made species that we have created, robots and AI. They, just like us, will be curious about their meaning and their purpose, and if they are alone, they will explore space and time for deeper understanding and even eventually develop portals to travel back in time to a number of places in the world that allow them to perform research or observational sensory recordings. One portal being at the ranch, because these robot things we created know key transformative and pivotal dates in history. They are capable of knowing when exactly to send data probes, which are these orbs that people see on the show. What is fascinating about this is that these beings know exactly who is watching the show as well, because the data is easily available to this future AI. That being said, this AI is incredibly conscious of what experience are measuring and recording on the show, so that means all of the interactions aren't happenstance or random. They are planned, perfectly to reveal themselves and share their message from the future, literally and directly with you.
That's just the plot to Transformers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like they went really off the rails there for like about halfway through that, because
that was
making
only
some large leaps.
One hypothesis. He has two.
Like, I feel like if AI were intelligent enough to explore the universe and even humanity, it's like, why the fuck would they go in the middle of Utah?
Yeah,
because there's going to be something there in the future that we don't know is there now.
That's a valid point.
His whole point is that they know something we don't.
I thought they were just trying to explore other life forms and see what there was, but if it that part, okay.
It says one portal being at the ranch because these robot beings we created know key transformative and pivotal dates in history. So they know exactly where to go and when to go. So it's like, I don't know, something about this time is the place to be, I guess. But I don't know what like the 30s would have been telling them about, just like a couple farmsteaders being like, what the hell is that? But his second hypothesis isn't too far off from his first one, because he thinks that the second option could be universe-exploring robots. Instead of robots AI being developed by us, they were developed by another alien race that is also extinct or potentially living, searching for answers and interested in the understanding Earth and other planets. They have installed portals around the universe, rapidly traveling through massive distances, and once they arrive, they head to their areas of interest. This is what we see often with UAVs moving at the speeds they do. This alien species is also familiar with our experiments on the show and are intentionally trying to tell us something to get our attention. And if they didn't want to be known, it would be easy for them to do so and hide. So again, their message from wherever they're from is intended to literally and directly for you.
What if they're just bored?
That's probably true. They're bored. They're like, let's fuck with the humans.
We've seen all there is to know, and now we're just bored.
Yeah, they just want to watch everything happen.
What do you guys think about robots instead of, I guess, aliens? I guess it could be an alien robot.
Why does it... I'm not seeing how it's a robot, or why it has to be a robot.
Because it could survive traveling long distances of time?
Oh, and the vent coils.
Or maybe through portals?
But why did it incinerate the dogs? I'm still lost on the dog incineration.
It doesn't have to be a robot to survive through portals.
What if it does? What if the portals, like, eat through flesh?
Whoa.
But
like
I don't think that's what the guy who thought of the theory had in mind.
I don't think he thought that deeply.
I don't think so either.
Here's another hypothesis of what it could potentially be. They think that it could be astral projection. This person claims that astral projection is very real and has been scientifically studied with success.
My college professor told me how he used to astral project when he was on morphine.
I thought he was going to be on mushrooms.
No.
My thought was to have a team of experienced people using astral projection travel to Skinwalker Ranch to witness the planned experiments and conducted research. Upon waking up from sleep, those projecting would then share what they witnessed in the astral plane. And if multiple projectors traveled to the site at the planned time, they would possibly share the very similar information of what they witnessed.
So they're just going to take a bunch of ayahuasca and, like, sit there in a circle and try to see if they can astral project themselves.
Well, true astral projection doesn't need drugs. You can just do it in your sleep.
Oh. I guess
I've got a theory. I think it could be, the 3-letter agencies gearing up for Project Bluebeam. Have you discussed that on the show?
No.
Explain.
You know
what
that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Explain
now
to the
that,
viewers.
Now that we're talking about astral projection, the idea of Project Bluebeam, it was this conspiracy theory that was really popular in the early 90s.
It's still really popular.
It's not really popular anymore.
No, there are still people that deadass think that it's like an ongoing thing.
I mean, that's not shocking.
Yeah, but I think technically by its original prophecy, it can't be true anymore because it's past the date that it was supposed to happen or something. But the original story was that I think for Y2K, the government was going to project the deities into the sky so that we would worship them or something. I don't remember anymore. But System of a Down made a song about it.
So there are people that think that the Project Bluebeam thing, actually what happened was, about the super collider blowing up?
No.
So in 2012, 2013, I think, I could be iffy on those dates, there was a super collider. Let me check here.
I wonder if any of these beliefs had a revival during COVID when people were losing their minds. They were oh, you know what? Maybe.
I feel like we could converge multiple theories into this. We could put Project Bluebeam into the Skinwalker Ranch, and maybe all of these theories and all of these abnormalities that we see occurring unnaturally are all related and interconnected with each other. Maybe they're not so distant.
So in 2008.
Okay. So, oh wait. Did the Mayan calendar run out? I feel like it did.
That was in 2012.
2012.
Yeah, so this is one of those things.
Okay. So on September 10th, 2008, a beam of protons was fired around the length of the super collider. You know CERN is CERN? Okay. So
it's a real educational hour for us.
Honestly. All right. So
tell the derps what these things are. I am the derp.
CERN is the European Organization for Nuclear Research.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's in another language. Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire. This is the thing. And so they house this big, giant metal machine that spins at ungodly speeds with a bunch of metal and wires and magnets and bullshit.
Oh, I think I know I do know what this is now. I remember this now. Yes, the Super Collider. Which, yes.
So it was called the Hadron Collider. September 10th, 2008.
I remember the day this happened.
It was their first successful attempt for the test being ran. And basically what happened is the protons were fired at the length of the collider, and it went all the way through, and it seemed successful and they weren't having a problem, although only 9 days later there seemed to be a problem, and there was what they think to be a faulty electric connection which damaged 53 superconducting magnets within the actual collider itself, which caused the machine to kind of break and go down. Well, there is a theory that says when that happened, we basically got knocked into an alternate reality. And the reason for that is because there's one reality where we all died because the super collider broke and caused a black hole to open up and basically killed everybody.
Yeah.
And then there's the second reality that was performed, which was us. And that's actually why the 2012 Mayan calendar thing didn't kill us, was because we are now in a different reality where it didn't mean the same thing. And that's why everything has started to shift into be really weird and different. And
we're boo boys for real.
That's why there are so many Mandela effects. Do you know what those are?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the day that the collision happened. My friends and I were all gearing up for it. And we were like, "Fuck yeah, we're all gonna die today! Like, it's like this could be the day where the world like breaks apart. It's gonna be fucking awesome." And then nothing happened.
So July 5th, 2022, they rebuilt and put together the Super Collider to turn it back on again.
Yeah, do it again.
And there are a bunch of people that think that doing that is essentially going to like open a portal and cause who knows what to happen.
What if they create two Super Colliders and they collide them together?
People think that we,
collider.
as the new collider has been turned back on, we could have potentially caused something else to happen. So the reason that people think that now something is happening is because in 2008 it went down. It went down again in 2012 when they had a record high voltage level that caused the Mandela effects. And then it went down again in 2016 when a weasel got into the actual machine and it fried and it caused like an offset within the actual machine, which then people think caused Trump to be president.
A weasel.
A weasel did it.
And so it keeps going like that. So, with the whole astral projection thing, it's really funny because it's like that could be all tied together to the fact that the CERN Super Collider has literally like broken and thrown us into an alternate reality that allows these things to happen.
So that could play a role in both Project Bluebeam and in the Skinwalker.
Yes, to get back to the Project Bluebeam thing. People think that Project Bluebeam might actually be a thing now because in the previous reality where Project Bluebeam would have ended and not been a thing, we have been thrown into an alternate reality where it never did end and it is an active thing.
Wasn't it supposed to be a thing in like 1999 though? And
but we're in an alternate reality where it may not have been that.
But we didn't enter that alternate reality until 2008.
Yeah, but everything that we have known is just...
Who's to say that the past wasn't changed too?
Oh, yeah.
That's why Mandela effects are a thing. Like, people think in the 80s Nelson Mandela was, like, killed, but actually he was released from prison.
The Berenstein Bears, goddammit!
Berenstein.
I swear to God. That makes me feel less crazy about that.
So that System of a Down song never happened.
No, it did.
I was going to get credit for it. But nobody would understand what it meant.
There's another theory about the Skinwalker Ranch, and this guy thinks that it could just be Native Americans that are pissed off that there are all these people on their designated land, and they've decided to have a team of people screw with whoever owns the place. Like lighting glow beams on the mountain, and basically having one guy with like a big spotlight to like freak him out, and random people hearing knocking and stuff, and burnt animals. It's just people putting that stuff there. Strange stuff in the sky is just someone flying a kite. You know, just fucking with them.
They haul out those cows all by themselves.
I mean...
What was the point of entry with those hollowed out cows? Was there like a hole somewhere that was just like all emptied out? Or were they like opened up, like cut apart from the middle and like hollowed out?
The legs and the head and stuff were taken off because it was dismembered. And then from the chest to the ass, it was completely hollowed out.
Okay, yeah. So I don't even think a human could do that.
I mean, I guess if you were like a skilled surgeon, maybe. But it would take you a lot of time.
That's really hard. You'd have to like get a blender in there or something, like gouge that stuff out. It's really gross.
There are some people that in watching the show are getting kind of annoyed because they keep wasting rockets, and they think that they should just dig into the ground because they believe that there may be something in the ground that is causing all of the electro charges.
I do remember on the show that they were like really against digging in the ground, and the only episode I saw that they said that could tend to like anger or upset whatever the thing was. So I don't know if they actually ended up doing that later.
There's no reason to do it. Also, the ranch has plumbing.
It happened somehow.
Yeah, somebody dug in the ground. There's a basement and a bathroom. Like, there's...
I think on the show, supposedly, like, one of the guys said screw it and started digging, and then, like, he had some major, like,
problem. Didn't he get, like, a cancer or something?
He had something go on with his brain, like an abscess or something, and they couldn't explain what was going on. Like, it was just swelling for no reason, and it, like, almost killed him.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't find, like, a reason for it. They were just like, this is really weird. And then the team was like, well, we don't really want to endanger anyone like that. So I don't know if they ended up doing it later. Or from a distance, maybe? Like, they could, we have robotics now. Like, do you think that they could, like, get a mechanized something?
I think they've tried to do something like that. I haven't seen very many episodes. We should watch it.
Yeah.
We should.
See.
We should review it for the show.
Yeah.
Part 2? Part 2 Skinwalker Ranch?
It's possible. We could do like a live watch and commentary thing.
That'd be fun.
Well, any questions?
I have lots of questions, but I feel like the show will answer some of them. And
I feel like there are a lot of questions that show can't answer.
That's also true.
It creates more questions.
But it's also like you have to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt because it's like what's real and what's not, and you know Robert Bigelow's like findings on the place. I couldn't find like a direct source that comes from him directly. Like you can't really find his documentation unless you're in a certain circle in order to get it.
Mr. Bigelow, we want to talk to you.
You can really only find the same like 5 facts all over the place. And I kind of feel like from what I've gotten from the show or what I've read through synopsises and stuff is they also don't have all that information, and it kind of seems like they might be doing the same sort of projects over and over hoping for a better result.
Data.
Again, gotta watch the show to really determine that, but it seems like if there is a mystery to the Skinwalker Ranch, it's not open to the public, and so there's not a lot of independent investigation being done. It's only really been by 2 sources, which is the Billionaire and the History Channel.
They might think it's too dangerous for the public to know.
I mean, it's entirely possible. If everybody that's been on the cases are all military and stuff, and they don't want civilians knowing anything.
I mean, civilians freaked out at COVID at the Winco, so like...
Only like 2 months ago was I telling Paul like our plan if aliens truly came to the Earth and they were hostile.
I want to know this.
I'm not going to tell anybody. Then they're going to try and steal my plan.
Yeah, we can't talk about it on the show.
Sorry, guys. But I get to know later.
There will be a Boo Boys fan meetup though after the apocalypse.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
We'd have to get like radio channels.
Yeah, we'll have the radio channel.
Yeah.
We'll get a ham radio.
Do you know how to work an FM radio?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we gotta get a ham radio.
Yeah, we need a ham radio.
Yeah, we can blaze it.
Okay. You guys will teach me. It'll be fine. Or I'll be dead.
Just play with knobs. It's fine. Alrighty. Well, my name's Dalton.
My name's Paul.
And I'm Sarah.
We're the Boo Boys. Bye.
See you later.